I'm Kevin Crawford from Kevin Crawford Consulting, and welcome to the Executive Mirror. Welcome to the Executive Mirror. We're going to explore blind spots with executives with my good friend, Dr. Relly Nadler.
Well, thanks, Kevin. I'm Dr. Relly Nadler from True North Leadership. Glad to continue with the Executive Mirror and kind of reflect on what leaders should know. And so we're going to be talking about the shadow or the blind spot.
Do executives all have blind spots?
I would think we all have blind spots. And do executives have more? Maybe. I mean, kind of given where they're at. It's a really interesting concept. You know, the shadow goes back to Carl Jung, who's a protege of Freud. And it's that unconscious, uncomfortable feeling about who you are, and we want to keep it in the shadows. Maybe I'm not that effective. Maybe I'm not as good as I should be. And so it's uncomfortable, and we keep it, it's like keeping it in the closet. Hopefully nobody will know.
So that's kind of that hidden conversation that's taking place in your mind.
Yes. And often if it's unconscious, we don't even know it's going to, but then subconscious, it's in the mind, and then we're trying to shut it down.
And then that drives the things that we say and do. Yes. And back to our last conversation, the masks that we may put on.
Right, right. So it's almost like we're trying to prove that maybe that uncomfortable aspect of ourselves is not there. So that's where the ego could come in and maybe putting people down, superiority, those kind of things.
I've seen that with executives quite often. They get the jobs because they're technically very sound in one area or another. But there really is never any time spent kind of exploring these things that can trip them up significantly.
Right.
And they don't have the opportunity to explore these things that may influence their decision-making.
Yeah. Really,
is this true?
Yeah, really well put. It's really important. Who are they going to share that with? I mean, who wants to share something that I'm uncomfortable with, or maybe I'm not as good as I am? Who are we going to share that with? Mm-hmm. I mean, hopefully it's going to be you, it'll be me, or people like us that they can let that mask down temporarily.
Right. And it's such a powerful influence over how they conduct themselves, how they do their business,
right? Even
the business that they're supposed to be technically very good at. Yeah. It's influencing them under the surface.
Yeah.
I learned in an early age that it was really important to have a small cadre of people around me that would let me know when I was off the reservation. And that's how I would term it. But it was exposing my blind spots. Yeah. It was people that I could really think out loud with. Yeah. And they can't think out loud with anybody in the C-suite. And oftentimes they can't take it home because the context at home is different than the context at work. So they really don't have anybody to be completely candid with. Yep. And the voice inside their head that's bouncing around is giving a lot of mixed messages. So the importance of having somebody like yourself, somebody like myself, to just sit knee to knee with them.
Yep.
And as you often say, put it all on the table is critical.
Yeah. I mean, really well stated. And we all need that, Kevin. And we know this. Who are we? We're a thinking partner with them and for them. It's all their thoughts. What's the challenge? What's getting in the way? What's keeping them up at night? All these things that we would ask them. And they take a deep breath and they go, well, here's kind of the issue. And so we unpack that, but hopefully give them a direction or maybe some actions that they can prioritize and move forward.
Really, why is there such a stigma around such things? The technical side of the job,
right?
What you're producing, gets all the time and attention. And the numbers, the quarterly numbers get all the attention. And at the same time, this part of how an executive comports themselves and comports their thoughts, gets no attention. But in every case that I've been involved in, it has affected positively the bottom line.
Yeah.
But yet it's just this untouchable subject.
And I think it's getting more so. So, you know, both of us are fans of emotional intelligence, and it really talks about it's probably the key success factor when compared to techno expertise, like you just said, how smart someone is, and then emotional intelligence. So if you look at these three factors, emotional intelligence, depending on the research, is anywhere as an important variable, 50 to 80, 90%. Everybody is already smart, so that's an equalizer. You know, if someone has 2 extra IQ points, they try to show you that they do, but it's not a differentiator. Techno expertise, I'm sure you saw in your career, same for me, you're not doing what you got hired to do years ago. Now you're leading people, and that is this idea of emotional intelligence. What do you know about yourself? How do you manage yourself? What do you know about others? How do you manage others? And really, you can get evaluated on that, and there's skills to develop those areas.
My observation has been the higher up you go, the higher you promote, the less technical it becomes and the more social it becomes.
Right.
But yet we don't analyze or test for any of that. And I suppose that's where the Peter Principle came from.
Yeah. Go to your highest level of incompetence. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, the good news, I think, that what you and I were able to do, one, you can test for some of these dynamics with emotional intelligence. There's a lot of assessments that we could use. And then, so what do? How do you pinpoint which ones, whether it's communication, whether it's influence, whether it's dealing with conflict or managing yourself, kind of the well-being? How do you bring your best? All those are on the table.
You know, I like to hear you say that because oftentimes we bring instruments in to test where people are.
Right.
But oftentimes that just labels where they are at this moment in time with an expectation that we're all going to deal with people a little bit different, knowing, you know, how they fundamentally think.
Right.
But this notion that you just touched on of growing past that and becoming more emotionally intelligent is really important.
The good news about this, Kevin, it's important and you can get better at it. Your IQ is pretty fixed. Like most CEOs supposedly have an IQ of 120 to 125. You know, it's a standard deviation, almost 2 standard deviations above the norm. You have what you got. Emotional intelligence, if you really work on some of these things and try it out, you can get more emotionally intelligent. Matter of fact, the older we get, we are more emotionally intelligent. It's kind of maturity. Things that bugged you 10 years ago probably don't bug you now.
Mm-hmm. What percentage of increase are you seeing from your clients increase in their emotional intelligence?
So obviously it's different for everybody, but a standard would be probably 10 to 15% that they're better. But if you think about the critical ones that we're talking to people about, not only are they better, their team's better. I'm clearer on my delegation. I know my people and I'm doing a good job growing them and coaching them. And so if you took that 10 to 15% and you put that on each of the individuals that are part of the executive team, you know, that's a huge payoff to return on investment.
Yes. Well, I think that's becoming more acceptable in the workplace now, especially in the executive circles that we run with, a more critical part. But the other thing I've also noticed is that in some ways, emotional intelligence has kind of gotten dummied down. I think everybody thinks they understand emotional intelligence, but it's a little bit more complicated than we think.
Yeah.
And the big power for me in it all is being able to develop the skills to look inside. As I say, reverse the eyeballs and look back inside as to what you're thinking, because you can't manage yourself effectively unless you really understand how you're thinking.
True. And I think in your book, you talk a lot about, you know, thinking and really talking about their thinking. That's one of the key things for an executive. Are they clear about what they're thinking? And then how do they communicate it? You know, in a simple terms, what I thought about, at least for me, and I'm sure it's true for you, we help people think better, clearer. We help people identify what they are feeling. Is it getting in the way, or what am I supposed to do with it? And then how do they better communicate? I mean, the big three, thinking, feeling, communicating, that's what we do every day.
Right, right. Any organization would be best served by understanding those three things, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think I love when you talk about kind of self-awareness. You know, we both are advocates. It starts with the self. That's the executive mirror, is looking in yourself and say, okay, where am I? Some of the research is showing 90 to 95% of us think we're self-aware. So if you were to ask me, hey, Ro, are you self-aware? Oh, yeah, I think I'm self-aware. When they've done research, it's more like 10 or 15%. This is out of a study of 5,000 people. 10 or 15% are really self-aware. So we all think we are, but it's these blind spots like we talked about, the shadow. We don't even know and see it, and others see it. And so that's why sometimes getting information from other people about the executive can shed light, I'm using that word, shed light for the shadow, about what they can't see.
An executive a number of years ago called me. He was very successful, but he said, I know I have blind spots.
Yeah.
And I can't afford to have blind spots. And I want to put you on a retainer to expose my blind spots. Now, fact of the matter is, he was probably, of all the executives, the one that needed, you know, that light shined on what he's thinking less than most people do.
Yeah.
Which is probably an indication of why he was so comfortable asking the question.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was brilliant, you know?
Yeah.
Brilliant on his part to say, okay, I know my thinking isn't as accurate and as good and as healthy as it could be.
Yeah.
There's got to be blind spots, as there is with all of us.
Sure.
But to have that person side by side with you, exposing some of those things that are tripping you up in business, tripping you up in relationships, that's a huge value add to their significance and impact as an executive.
Yeah, for sure. And your person demonstrated what's called this growth mindset. I'm good, but I could be better. What else is out there? You know, and I think like an athlete, it's always these fine tweaking. So I will often work with executives and I'd say in the coaching, this is not a makeover. You're doing great. You know, if anything, it's a moreover. Can we identify those few things you could do a little more? Or maybe there's something you got to do a little less to dial down. And I think they fed that back to me about why they liked it. It's not a makeover, because I think people who don't know about it, you know, think, oh, you know, I think I'm all right. It's a moreover. And what are those things that they could do more of?
And just that little nuanced difference probably makes a big difference in their lives.
Yeah.
Well, Rella, as always, it's a pleasure to talk to you. And we're going to do this again.
We're going to do it again.
On Executive Mirror.
Thanks, Kevin. Love it.
Okay. Take care. For more information, contact Kevin, CrawfordConsulting.com.